Good evening, welcome to ITV News. This is Wednesday night's calendar.
Here are tonight's main stories.
Guilty, the teenager on trial for killing a 15-year-old Huddersfield schoolboy is convicted. Another boy had already admitted murder.
The school getting free uniforms to help the cost of living and inflation. The head teacher says parents are struggling.
The heating at home's not going on so much. They're all looking at the fact that they can't afford luxury. That experience has gone for children.
It's tough at the top. Are too many actors from privileged backgrounds? We ask how working class performers can break onto the stage and the silver screen.
And crowning glory, York Minster unveils a new exhibition, Revelling in Royalty.
Hello and welcome to Calendar, and we're on the air tonight with some breaking news. A 17-year-old has been found guilty of murdering a Huddersfield boy outside his school in what a court heard was a targeted attack.
15-year-old Kyrie McLean was stabbed to death last September. Another 15-year-old boy had already admitted his murder. The 17-year-old's conviction today came after a week-long trial at Leeds Crown Court.
Well, the killers, who can't be named because of their age, will be sentenced later. Michael Billington has been following the case and is live for us at Leeds Crown Court tonight. Michael, good evening. A complicated case, but in the end it didn't take long for the jury to reach their verdict.
Yes, that's right, Ian. The jury was sent out this morning, but took less than 5 hours to decide that the 17-year-old defendant on trial here at Leeds Crown Court was guilty of murder. He was just 16 at the time of the attack and went with another 15-year-old boy to North Huddersfield Trust School in September last year, where they lay in wait for their victim to come out. As Kyrie walked up the road with a group of his friends, both of the boys charged towards him, the 15-year-old swinging a 30-centimetre blade which he stabbed into Kyrie's chest. That's proved to be the fatal blow. But the attack continued as the defendant here slashed at him with a knife at Kyrie's legs as he lay defenceless on his back. All of this was played out on CCTV to the court. Kyrie died later that night.
It's a shocking story, Michael. If the 17-year-old defendant today didn't inflict the fatal blow, why has he been found guilty of murder?
Well, prosecutors claim that this was premeditated. It was a planned attack. Both of the boys took knives. Both of them took a change of clothes and balaclavas. They even took a longer, more discreet route to the school that day in the hope of avoiding detection. During his trial, the 17-year-old defendant tried to claim that Kyrie was in fact not his intended target, that instead he'd actually gone to the school that day hoping to have a fist fight with another boy, that he'd only taken a knife as a form of self-defence. But the jury rejected that claim, agreeing that the defendant knew of the plan to stab Kyrie, agreeing that he and his co-defendant had worked together, both encouraging and supporting each other to carry out the attack.
And Michael, was there any reaction in court when that verdict was read out?
Well, Kyrie's mother, who you can see here in this footage in the long white coat, along with several other members of Kyrie's family, were in court today. They listened in silence as the guilty verdict was handed out and made no comment as they left court this afternoon. Now, they have sat and heard in distressing detail about when Kyrie died. They even saw the moment he was stabbed when the CCTV was played. Both of Kyrie McLean's killers will be brought back here tomorrow. They'll be sentenced at a later date.
OK, Michael, thank you very much. Michael Billington live at Leeds Crown Court.
Well, now, as the cost of living crisis continues to bite and inflation has gone back up again, the Bradford head teacher who says parents are struggling to feed their children properly.
Dixon's Manningham Primary School provides free fruit and vegetables to its pupils to help them get a balanced diet, and has seen the number of children attending its breakfast club double in the last 12 months.
Now it's also giving out free school uniforms as the cost of living crisis bites even more. Adam Fowler reports.
Dixon's Manningham Primary School in Bradford has a good Ofsted rating, but parents here are struggling. Rising costs mean many families are choosing cheaper food, so much so that it's now supplying free fruit and veg.
We're seeing a rise in packed lunches, and a lot of those packed lunches, they're not as healthy as they once were. The heating at home's not going on so much. They're all looking at the fact that they can't afford luxuries. You know, the children talk about they don't go out anymore for the birthdays and for meals and celebrations. So, you know, that experience has gone for children.
With inflation on the rise again, things aren't likely to get easier anytime soon.
Inflation for the year to February is 10.4%. That's even higher than it was in January. And food inflation alone is more than 18%, the highest since 1978.
Rising food costs affect some of the poorest members of society the most. The number of children attending breakfast club at this school has doubled to 120 over the last 12 months. Children have also been given free school uniforms in a scheme funded by a bank. It's something Asma and her children have benefited from.
It is difficult with 4 kids. I survived by the end of the month. I think, that's it. It's, the last inbound. Then I wait again. So, I start again.
So you just survive month to month, use all the money every month?
Yes.
Do you worry then about costs going up even further?
I do worry about it, a lot.
More than 800 children have been provided with £61,000 worth of school uniforms through the scheme.
These are complex problems dealing with household budgets, but if we can do our bit by alleviating some of those pressures by supporting the purchase of school uniforms and other associated equipment to enable the kids to get in school, it relieves the budget in and of itself, but also it means that the children don't miss out on education, which is vitally important.
Inflation is now higher in the UK than all other G7 countries. The government says it needs to stick to its plan to halve it this year. But for those who've already cut back as much as they can, any further price rises are already a very real worry. Adam Fowler, ITV News, Bradford.
Now, there are calls this evening to put the brakes on large-scale solar farms, which one MP says could surround the North Yorkshire village where he grew up.
Nigel Adams says the clean alternative to generating electricity is welcome, but plans are being submitted for more and bigger sites, and he fears Campbellsford near Selby could end up with solar farms all around it.
Well, I spoke to our political correspondent Katie Oscroft a little earlier, and I asked her first whether MPs are unhappy about the idea of solar energy.
Well, they say that's not their point, and this has been debated in the Commons. The feeling is that solar farms are a welcome source of green energy, but that some areas are seeing a flood of applications. And take a village like Campbellsford, obviously close to Nigel Adams' heart, and that could end up with a solar farm in every direction. And he says that that will simply fuel the opposition to these projects.
There is public concern about the increasing number of applications and the more than tenfold increase in the size of some of these applications. And if that opposition from communities and members of Parliament continues, this will impede our progress in terms of getting towards net zero.
So, Katie, what do MPs want, and what does the government say to this?
Well, they want to see some limits on the scale of these solar farms, perhaps some regulations which in advance lessen the impact on local communities. But the government says that decarbonisation is urgent and that there are planning regulations already in place.
Government recognises that deploying large solar projects, as with the new infrastructure, will have local impacts. Whilst government surveys indicate that solar is one of the most popular renewable energy sources, we fully appreciate that people living in the vicinities may be concerned about the effects on their local amenities.
Well, this really is getting controversial now. On the one hand, you have people that oppose some of these projects, saying that, yes, we welcome this as a source of energy. It really is making a difference, but put something in place so that good agricultural land isn't overwhelmed and that small villages don't end up as giant solar farms. Environmentalists, on the other hand, say there is a desperate need for clean, cheap, renewable energy like this.
And that was Katie Oscroft reporting. Now, you're watching Wednesday's calendar, and still to come tonight, as York Minster prepares to welcome King Charles next month, the Minster revels in a royal exhibition.
And not a snowdrop, a spring snowflake. Who knew? Barry did, and he sent this picture in to us. A big thank you, Barry. More of your photos and, of course, the full forecast a little later on.
First, some more of the day's news, and a police officer has been attacked with a brick while investigating a suspected cannabis farm in Huddersfield. The female officer had been called to the Thornton Lodge Road area shortly before 8:30 last night to assist firefighters at the scene when someone threw a brick at her. She suffered a head injury which needed hospital treatment, but she has since been discharged.
The family of a Whitby man whose body was found almost 2 years after he walked out of hospital are calling for more to be done to help people struggling with mental health issues.
Peter Brown was being treated for depression and anxiety at the hospital in Scarborough when he went missing in May 2019. Today, a coroner recorded a conclusion of suicide over the death of the 46-year-old father of two. Fraser Maud reports.
Pete Brown had been struggling with mental health issues for over a decade before he was admitted as an informal patient to Cross Lane Hospital in Scarborough. That meant that on assessment he was allowed to relatively freely come and go from the hospital, and it was after one such assessment back in May 2019 that he left the hospital saying he was going to meet a friend. But he didn't return. When the alarm was raised, he was initially categorised as a medium-risk missing person. Before, an hour later, that was upgraded to him being a high-risk missing person. And there soon followed a campaign of appeals and searches which were assisted by Peter's friends and family as they desperately tried to find him. But it was some 20 months later when his body was eventually discovered hanging by a railway line about 2.5 miles away from the hospital. Well, his family have since voiced their concerns about the decision by the hospital to release him that day and for him not being classified immediately as a high-risk missing person. They also felt that more could have been done by the police to find Peter sooner. Well, the Assistant Coroner, Jonathan Leach, here today said that he couldn't criticise the hospital's actions, and he also said that he believed that every available resource had been used in the search for Peter, and also didn't think that had he been classified as high risk sooner, his body would not have been found any quicker. Well, in a statement from the family's solicitor today, they say that Tees, Esk and Wear Valley's NHS Foundation Trust must take steps to ensure that sufficient measures are put in place to mitigate the risk of patients coming to serious harm or death when they're allowed to leave hospital temporarily. Well, Peter's widow, Natalie, also issued a statement which said that our children remember Pete as being the best dad they could ever wish to have had. We want to remember Pete as a loving husband and dad, and not the Pete who suffered so badly under the grips of depression. Well, the Assistant Coroner ended the inquest by saying that although it was unfortunate that there was no specific time of death that could be given, that he was confident that Peter had taken his own life and that he intended to do so. Fraser Maud, ITV News, Northallerton.
Well, the Hospital Trust issued a statement today in which it said it did take steps to understand and address the areas it could improve after a review of Peter's case. And it added, while these did not contribute to his death, we continue to ensure that these are embedded in our services to make sure we are providing the best possible care to the people we support.
The Conservative MP for the Calder Valley says he will not stand at the next election. Craig Whitaker has represented for the area since 2010. He's the 22nd Conservative MP to say that they'll step down. Mr Whitaker was one of the first in his party to publicly call for Boris Johnson's resignation after Partygate. The former Prime Minister spent the afternoon being quizzed by fellow MPs.
Well, with more on that, the ITV Evening News continues at 6:30. Here's Mary Nightingale.
Coming up on the programme, Boris Johnson's Partygate grilling.
You didn't say that we did every effort to comply with the guidance of the House of Commons, and you didn't say that...
No, I'm saying that we followed the guidance completely.
In what could be the defining afternoon of his political career, the former PM is facing questions over whether he deliberately misled Parliament. We'll bring you the key moments from the hearing as well as all the reaction. Also on the programme tonight, as food prices continue to rise, just when will pressure on households finally ease? And new figures show the scale of sewage dumped in the country's rivers. Do join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, last night we told you how researchers have found a shortage of people from working class backgrounds working in the arts. It's a problem they fear will prevent important stories from being told.
Have you ever appeared on stage, Lisa?
Maybe nativity plays, that's about my limit.
Oh, I bet you were cute, weren't you? What did you play, a sheep?
A star.
Oh, lovely. Well, now the percentage of people employed in the sector from less privileged backgrounds has halved in the last 4 decades. We've already seen some of the work being done in the arts and culture sectors to reduce the class divide. Tonight, and in the second part of his series, James Webster's been looking at the prospects for young actors from poorer backgrounds.
Aidan Osborne from Rotherham describes himself as a working-class actor, but he feared making it in his chosen career would be harder because he never saw people who sounded like him on stage or screen.
For me personally, there was a lot of my journey that was kind of running away from my class and my identity, because it is part of who I am. And definitely in the beginning of this wanting to be an actor, it was almost like I didn't think people from northern working class folk could be actors.
When so many of our most celebrated actors like Dominic West and Olivia Colman are privately educated, it's easy to see why those from less privileged backgrounds worry about being a success. Eddie Redmayne famously studied at Eton, and recent research found more than half of those working in the UK's screen industries are considered to be from a privileged background. In purely creative roles like writers, producers and directors, that rises to 61%.
Those jobs in culture and creative industries are some of the most elite, the most posh, basically. This has an impact on what people think is a good representation, what people think is a good story, and it means that often working class stories can end up as quite cliched.
I ain't talking to you. Do you understand?
The actor Joe Sims, known for his role in Broadchurch, has started his own production company aiming to open doors for young people.
I'm keen to show other working class kids that there is a route in, to be aspirational and not just to take no for an answer. If there's something burning deep inside you and you want to do something, then absolutely go for it and reach out, ask for help, because those answers are out there. But unfortunately, in certain areas of the UK, talent's everywhere but opportunity is not.
I belong neither here nor there.
Drama classes can cost hundreds of pounds a year.
So Lamar, you take the guitar book to Ingvar first.
So charities like this one provide theatre workshops in schools and put on performances where young actors can showcase their talents.
There's not many opportunities for artists like us who have somewhere to go to create things, or people to go to help with getting to where we want to be.
But so the big aspiration is to be a director by the end of it, but I need to become the best actor first before I reach that point.
Things like theatre groups, you have to pay for them, and sometimes if you don't have the means to pay for them, you don't get that experience.
The entertainment industry and the cultural industry is going to be quite boring if it's only particular stories that are being heard. It's really important that we get to hear everybody's stories, and that there's proper representation across the whole sector. So now more than ever, with the cost of living crisis, it's really important that we ensure people have opportunities.
The opportunities here also extend behind the scenes into music and prop making. Just some of the many roles they are determined to prove should not be beyond anyone's reach. James Webster, ITV News.
It's important we hear those voices, isn't it? But I think we've got quite a strong tradition of working class Yorkshire voices. Yeah. Sean Bean springs to mind.
Yeah, Tom Courtney, did you say?
Tom Courtney, yeah.
From Hull, and lots of our soap stars, people who appear in Emmerdale, which is made here, of course, at ITV Yorkshire, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, here's another stage. A star of the stage. And time for the weather to take the centre stage, Kerry.
Yes, and you took my advice, didn't you, Lisa?
I did. I listened
so what
to
did you do this morning,
yesterday.
Lisa?
I got the washing on the line and I took a photo of it
Ta-da!
for you.
Bless you. Thank
What's
you.
that?
All
That's my running
matching
trousers.
everything. all matching and all dry. Super impressed. So it went to plan. What do we need for the perfect or the optimum drying conditions? Well, one, we need sunshine. That really helps. And the warmer the better for speed, but washing will dry in colder air. It just takes a little bit longer. Secondly, we need low moisture content in the surrounding air. The drier the better, so it can absorb more water. And finally, fresh air, the movement of the air, which will increase agitation and allow the moisture from the washing to be released. So dry and windy, more important, and not necessarily warm and settled. So there you go. There's my top tips.
I'm taking all your tips on
But it
my
didn't
washing.
say dry and windy all day, did it? So
No.
this was first thing this morning. Gorgeous. I love a look up past the trees. A big thank you to Glyn Beck for this, taken near Bradford. The magnolia's coming through now, so magnolia and blue sky in Moulton. A big thank you to June Hornby. So this was the satellite and radar for this morning. A really good clearance first thing. But if you look at the showers developing over the last few hours or so, we've even had a flash of lightning and a rumble of thunder around the Dales, and that pretty much sets the scene for the rest of this evening and through into the first part of the night. Very quickly, but quite intense, we've got some heavy rain pushing through. So yes, it wasn't dry, all places. We had some double rainbows in Huddersfield. A big thank you to Holly Parry for this shot. So yes, you can just about make the double one there. And also, yes, we've had some water this week. So this was Goitstock Waterfall near Harden in Bradford. A big thank you to Nigel for sharing. A little bit of a slow-mo there, a low shutter speed, I think, to get that gorgeous shot. And this was a barn owl at first light. A big thank you to Simon Abbott for taking this absolutely perfect shot in Hatfield in South Yorkshire. Keep those photos coming.
I love that picture.
That photo's fantastic,
Great,
isn't it?
They've been fab so far this week.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. And the full forecast a little later on.
We'll hear from you then.
Of course.
Now, finally, in a fortnight's time, York will be preparing to welcome King Charles and the Queen Consort for their second visit in just a matter of months.
Yes, this time the King will be distributing Maundy money. That's the gift that recognises people in local communities who've made a difference to the lives of others.
It'll be at the Minster, and to mark the visit and the coronation to come, there's a new exhibition there showcasing royal treasures from the cathedral's historic collection. John Hill's been for a look.
In just a couple of weeks, this place will be alive with pomp and pageantry, all eyes on the King. But from this Saturday, you can get your own glimpse of the cathedral's royal connections with an exhibition called Majesty, Monarchy and York Minster.
Well, the exhibition itself is beneath the body of the cathedral in what's called the treasury. It's a bit of a cavern, really, and Head of Collections is Helen Rawson. Helen, you normally have these treasures to yourself, don't you?
Can't wait to show you what we've got out.
Thank you very much.
So let me show you the Royal Maundy money. Queen Elizabeth II came 1972 and 2012, which was her Diamond Jubilee year.
And we can see the signature, can't we? Yes.
We have, and above it, Charles's signature as Prince of Wales when he came to see the repair works to the Central Tower in the 70s.
So you'll be hoping he signs again?
Absolutely, we'd be thrilled. And this book comes out, so we've many royal signatures in here, and Elizabeth's signature from 2012 as well.
Each new monarch put their stamp on the country and the church, and the previous King Charles, that's Charles II, inspired a certain showiness, even among Bible designers.
Helen, you've put your gloves on because we're about to look at a Bible that dates back to when?
1660. So bought at the time of the restoration of Charles II as a bit of a show of loyalty by York Minster. Look at these gorgeous lions and the figure of the King throned in majesty. And then on the front we've got this wonderful silver and gilt crucifixion. So a really fine piece.
But we wonder whether Charles will be greeted by lions this time. Perhaps
Wouldn't it be
not.
fabulous?
Of course, no exhibition is complete these days without something for the children.
For the young and the young at heart, there is the opportunity to try on regal robes, to sit in state and imagine what it must be like to be a king and not a commoner.
It's something we'll all just have to imagine. As for Helen and her team, they're just happy to showcase York's real-life regal treasures.
We've got so many gorgeous things, beautiful royal seals, the ancient coronation chair of the archbishops. All eyes are on the coronation and Royal Maundy at York Minster, and we're pleased to be part of it.
Well, that was Helen Rawson there talking to John Hill. He can't resist the opportunity to get dressed up, can John? But he's not really a king.
I've heard that about him, actually.
Yes,
yeah, I have.
in his spare time.
Still can't get used to King Charles, can you? It's strange, isn't it?
It is taking some getting used to, but it's going to be a really exciting day when he comes to York next month. So lots of people looking forward to that.
Yeah, warm Yorkshire welcome. Let's see if it's going to be warm weather-wise. Here's Kerry.
Good visibility on the horizon. TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
Hello again. So it was a very promising start first thing this morning. Beautiful skies above Nostell Priory. A big thank you to Sue Bilcliffe. But yes, the afternoon showers did bubble up. This was yesterday afternoon at Honley. A big thank you to Roy and also a big thank you to Lee this afternoon at Hebden Bridge. So yes, sunshine and showers, the afternoon mix. The jet stream's to the south of the UK at the moment, and that's what's allowing these low pressure systems to come in from the west. Showers or longer spells of rain, often windy and on the mild side. But as we head towards the weekend, the jet sinks a little further south, and that will allow for the cold and northerly air to approach us Sunday into Monday. But in the meantime, for this evening, a spell of heavy showery rain, heavy and thundery in places, pushing eastwards quite quickly though. And then behind that, still very blustery those winds, but drier and clearer and slightly fresher as we head towards dawn. Fantastic lenticular clouds above Freeston. A big thank you to Barry Craven for this shot. Rising just after 6 tomorrow morning and setting around 6:25. So tomorrow morning, again, a decent start, but pretty short-lived. Showers will start to get going late morning and into the afternoon. So more of a mix of sunshine and heavy, blustery showers, potentially some hail and thunder in there, and temperature-wise as well, around 13 or 14 Celsius. And a very similar picture as we head into the last day of the working week on Friday. Very showery, very blustery, some sunshine in between, and still just about on the mild side of average. We'd expect around 10 to 12 Celsius this time of year, maybe a 12 or 13 by Friday. Still blustery on Saturday, a weather front coming down from the north, and it's behind that we start to see the colder air Sunday into Monday. So colder nights and the risk of any showers, perhaps any bit wintry right over the tops.
TUI sponsors ITV Yorkshire Weather.
There you go, that's your forecast.
Thank you very much. I tell you what, Kerry, I feel I know Lisa a bit better now, having seen her laundry on the washing line. Even Laura's not shown me her laundry.
Oh, it could have been worse, couldn't it?
Well, it could have been, but I wouldn't have taken a picture of that, I can honestly. That's it from us. Mary's next. See you later.
Good night.
Bye.